Hey, welcome back to LiterADV. My name is Yev.
And I'm Michael. Stick around as we install the Cyclops Aurora Light Kit on this Honda Africa Twin. Okay, so I want to introduce the components that's included in the Aurora kit made by Cyclops for the Africa Twin. What's included in this kit is the mounting plate, which affixes to the front of your bike in a fixed position. It does not turn with the forks so that the lights drive straight down the road. And that has included hardware. The two auxiliary lights, which are auxiliary lights and daytime running lights, the wire loom, the two pigtails, which make this a true plug-and-play, 3M Velcro, and an Allen key. Okay, so we have invested about 30 minutes in prepping this bike for the auxiliary lights install. The things that have been removed are the windscreen, the headlight inner cowling, the fairings both left and right, the seat, the pillion seat, the battery box cover, and we have also loosened up the left turn signal. And if you're not familiar with how to remove those products, there are plenty of good YouTube sources that will show you how to do that, but you need to invest about 30 minutes in prepping the bike for the auxiliary light install. We wanted to get a shot of where the mounting bracket is being installed, and Honda has these two gussets off of your steering column that have two factory drilled holes, and these two holes are the only holes that you need to go for on the mounting hardware of the bracket. Okay, so here is a close-up of the bracket, and the bracket has an angle built into it, and this part of the plate will go up towards the gussets that we just showed you, and it'll be angled down. The hardware itself has a 10 millimeter bolt and a 10 millimeter nut. On both sides of that, there's washers, and then there's a spacer. And the spacer will give it the clearance to clear the cowlings that are not here currently, but it'll give you the space to clear the cowlings. Okay, so we have removed one extra piece, and this is just a bridge between the plastic inner fairings. And that will give you 100% access to these gussets where we'll attach the mounting hardware. Either do the left or the right, but do it one at a time. It'll make getting the spacer and the plate and all of the hardware so it doesn't fall on the floor if you do it one at a time. So we're going to install the first one. Then we're going to hold it and install our spacer. Then we're going to take our plate and attach one side. Then we have a washer. And then lastly, we have a nylon nut. Okay, so now that you have the bracket supported by one, you're going to attach the second one. So it's the bolt and the washer through the gusset. Then support the top of the bolt and put your spacer in. Then your bracket, followed by a washer and a nylon locking nut. And then those will be tightened up with a 10 millimeter socket and a 10 millimeter wrench. Okay, so before tightening up these bolts, just make sure you put your plastic bridge back in between your inner cowlings. And then once that's installed, you can tighten up the bolts. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is install the auxiliary lights onto the bracket. Now these are universal left or right, so it doesn't matter which one you choose. And it has included hardware which has a 10 millimeter bolt and a 10 millimeter locking nylon nut. The mounting bracket has an elongated hole, so we're going to hold the lights to the outside to give us the widest beam pattern, and we're going to go ahead and tighten these up. Okay, at this point I want to talk a little bit about the functionality of these lights and why I chose these lights for my Africa Twin and why you should consider them for your bike. These lights, really, you're getting two in one. You're getting daytime running lights, which are the halos that run the circumference of the light, and those will always be on when you turn your bike on and you're in low beam. And then the inner part of the light is the auxiliary light. Now, these daytime running lights are not for your visibility. This is so others can see you down the road. And then when you flip your bike to high beam, you have the auxiliary lights, which gives you the visibility down the road. And The reason that these are truly plug and play, and this is the genius of the Cyclops Light Kit for the African Twin, is that they include these two pigtails, a high beam and a low beam. And they connect directly into factory settings right here behind your dash. So we're going to disconnect these one at a time, insert these pigtails, and these lights will be truly plug and play. Okay, these two plugs behind your dash, they are on the left side of your bike. There's a black plug and there's a white plug. The black plug is your low beam. The white plug is your high beam. So we're gonna do these one at a time. There's a little tab, pull it out, and this unplugs. And then this white one's a little tougher to get down to, but it's the same thing. You pull out the tab and you pull out the wiring. Okay, so to get the cleanest, clearest access to these plugs, I've elected to unplug my main cluster harness. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take off this black pin connector by sliding it off that post. And then we're gonna do the same for the white one. And then now you have access to these plugs. Okay, so everything you have here is all factory. You have the female and the male connector, which is off of these posts, and we're going to take the pigtail and we're just going to loop it through there. So here we have the white, which is the high beam, that connects in there, and then we have the black, which is the low beam. Okay. And now we're just going to individually slide them back on their post. Remember, the white one goes below and the black one goes on top. Okay, now we're just going to reattach our main cluster switch. And reattach your boot. And take the time to make sure you get it in the areas it needs to get to keep it a nice watertight seal. Okay, so here is the Cyclops wiring harness. And this is your typical wiring harness that you would get with any auxiliary lights. It has your relay, which has your 87, 87A, 86, 85, 30 relay. And off of this relay, and by the way, this relay can be replaced if it ever needs to, because this wiring harness is not hardwired into the relay, it's actually a plug. And off of that, you have 6 leads. You have your high and low beam. You have your pigtails, which go to your lights. And those have a Deutsch connector and a pigtail so that you can run your daytime running lights and your auxiliary lights. And then the last 2 leads are your battery connections, positive and negative. The positive is on a 30 amp fuse, and these go directly into your battery. And what we're going to do now is just connect everything up externally and check the functionality of the lights before we start burying this harness inside the bike. Remember that your white is your high beam, and these are clearly marked on the wire loom. So the next thing we're going to plug in is the light itself, and that is a Deutsch connector. These are left or right, so it doesn't matter which one you pick, but you have a Deutsch connector, which will make a snap, and off of that you also have the pigtail, the bullet connector.
High beams. Low beams.
Okay, so now that I've got those pigtails attached, I'm going to go ahead and reattach my blinker cowling. And just make sure you leave the pigtails out, because you're going to need access to the pigtails. And just tuck in the factory connections. At this point, you really could just route these wires into the battery. But in an effort to do a really clean install, I decided that I want to lift up the back of my tank and get those wires completely tucked into the frame. So to do that, we have to remove these plastic strips on the bottom of the tank and remove the seat perch, and to get access to the back of the tank bolt, which will just allow us to lift the back of the tank up. Okay, so Cyclops provides you Velcro, which you can attach your relay right here behind your cowling. And then we took both leads from the wiring harness and routed them to the right side of the bike, where we'll make the connections to the lights right here on the right side of the inside of the fairing. Ultimately, how you route your cables is up to you. This is just how we did it. And then we took the wire lights and routed them as well to the right side of the bike, where we will make the Deutsch connector and the bullet connector.